Hello, and welcome to Anchorage Youth Votes Workshop, Not Decoration, Empowering Youth and Building Resilience Through Meaningful Engagement. My name is Cari Zawodni, and I am the coordinator, or as we like to say, co-conspirator for Anchorage Youth Vote. And my job today is simply to introduce you to this really amazing and dynamic group of young people who will be guiding you through the workshop. It's my honor and privilege to work with such dedicated and compassionate youth. I hope you enjoy the presentation.
I run this country.
I'm not just a servant to its economy, distracted by memes and reality shows, but an active problem solver.
I am more educated, diverse, and digitally fluent than any other generation before me.
I am the most capable of making an impact.
Political mudslinging and personal agendas have no place in my country.
I expect well-formed policy and accountability.
Being elected means you work for me.
I put you there, and I build the laws that govern my land.
I am the future of democracy. I am Youth Vote.
When I cast my ballot, consider it a well-informed vote for what I believe in.
In 2016, Anchorage Youth Vote asked approximately 11,000 Anchorage School District students in 5th to 12th grade if they had ever been invited to be part of the decision-making process for a community issue that directly affects them. 65% of students reported no. Youth Vote believes this points to an urgent need for increased youth engagement in decision-making, and we also believe this need isn't exclusive to our community. Too often, youth are asked to participate in community problem-solving efforts in shallow or decorative ways, and usually as an afterthought. Today, you'll learn how youth in Alaska are working to ensure that all youth are included, heard, and empowered through youth-led initiatives. These efforts build resilience, increase protective factors, and positively influence bullying prevention.
Thank you all for joining us for this presentation. In just a moment, we'll introduce ourselves, but first, here's a bit about where we live, Anchorage, Alaska. We would like to respectfully acknowledge this land as the original territory of the Dena'ina people, the first and continuous stewards of the land on which we work and live. And here are a few fun facts. 41% of Alaska's population lives right here in Anchorage. About 100 languages are spoken in Anchorage's school system. Many of those are Alaska Native languages. Additionally, 3 of our nation's top 5 most diverse middle schools are in Anchorage, and the top 3 most diverse high schools in the US are also right here in Anchorage. And roughly 2,000 urban dwelling moose call Anchorage home.
Here's a little illustration to help demonstrate the size of our state. Roughly 4 Swedens can fit inside Alaska. Now we'll introduce our team. I'm Edison Wallace-Meyer. I'm a 9th grader, and I joined Youth Vote this year, and I'm very excited to do more with them.
Hello, my name is Tuan Graziano. I'm a student at the University of Alaska Anchorage, where I'm taking my final semesters of class, and I also serve as the student body president. I've been with Youth Vote since 2014, so I've been quite passionate about educating young people and advocating for them.
I'm Sarah Von Lerdy. I am in 12th grade, and I've been in Youth Vote for 3 years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Pack, and I'm in 9th grade this year, and I've recently joined Anchorage Youth Vote, and so far I'm loving it.
Hi, my name is Ava Earle, and I am a first year at Northwestern University, and I've been a part of Youth Vote for about a year and a half.
Hi, my name's Paul Tafts. I'm in 12th grade, and I've been with Youth Vote for 2 years.
So hello, my name is Taylor. I am a freshman at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and I have been with Youth Vote for over a year. As you can see, Youth Vote is a diverse group of students that range from 9th grade to college, all working together toward common goals. Youth Vote's mission is to provide a nonpartisan venue for empowering youth to vote and be involved in the democratic process. Youth Vote provides young people, teachers, educators, and the community with the relevant tools to reach this goal. We believe that when young people are free to do the work that they care about, everyone benefits, especially the organizations who help support youth work. You're here because you know that youth engagement matters, but just in case, we wanted to talk about why we feel that this is important with some reasons. When you take a look at a demographic breakdown of the population segment in the US, you'll notice that Gen Z and millennials make up a little bit over half of the population. Additionally, according to Alaska census data, about 25% of the population is under 18. And on average, Alaska's population is 4 years younger than the rest of the US. This is a massive population segment whose voices need to be heard because we reject the premise that young people are apathetic about their communities and their future. It's more an issue of we need to bring them and their ideas to the table because the bottom line is youth voice should be heard.
So let's talk about youth engagement. What does it really look like? What does it mean? This is Hart's ladder of youth participation. It illustrates degrees of participation ranging from non-participation to fully youth-initiated projects with decision-making autonomy. First, we'll look at non-participation so that we have a clear understanding of those ideas before we move into participation. Manipulation is using people without concern for their well-being or input, or using them to sell a product or message that may be harmful. Decoration is having youth presence to show involvement without significant contribution or with youth having little understanding. For example, youth as announcers, performers, or special guests without meaningful engagement. And finally, tokenism, which is using one youth to represent all youth. We would never assume one adult represents all adults. Why do we accept that when it comes to youth representation?
Now we'll look at participation. And when we move up this portion of the ladder on youth participation, starting with assigning youth roles that they understand, each step higher brings us closer to meaningful engagement until all work is youth initiated and all decisions are being made by youth. And they are the ones who share that with adults. Next, we'll take a look at youth leadership and we'll examine the 3 levels at the top. This is where Youth Vote always tries to operate. Our projects tend to fluctuate between youth-driven, youth-run, and youth-led, depending on the type of work we are doing, project we're working on, and what makes sense for the group and environment at that time. So let's start with youth-driven, which is a step where it reflects an environment where young people have substantive, meaningful roles in leadership positions, including governance and programming. Above that is projects that are youth-run, where youth are filling most staff or leadership positions and manage the day-to-day operations of the organization. And finally, at the very top, youth-led, which simply means that young people are in charge and fully autonomous. This can look different depending on your program or organization structure. So let's take another look at Hart's ladder of youth participation again, but this time include and overlay youth leadership. As you can see, there are the degrees of youth participation and youth levels of youth leadership that overlap. And there are projects that begin from the youth-driven and can all run all the way up to youth-led. And so when programs and organizations work at this high level of youth leadership and participation, young people are meaningfully engaged and empowered. Their protective factors are being increased, and they're becoming more and more resilient to risky behaviors, including bullying. So after all of that, it's important that we take some time for self-reflection and self-assessment. How does your community organization engage youth leaders? And what would you like to do more to empower young people?
Next, we'll take a look at steps you can take to achieve meaningful engagement. These are the steps we take to continually build our program: investors, engagement, outcomes, and revision. While the process we are about to guide you through takes time, there are some things you can do now that will make a big difference in the way you engage young people. The most important thing to note about these steps is that they are really a cycle, a process we go through with every project we take on, often with multiple projects at a time. But when you think of this work as a process and not simply tasks to do and goals to reach, you'll find that everything builds on itself and meaningful youth engagement is reached with every project. First, let's talk about investors. It's not just about making sure you have youth invested in your programs. You must also have the right partners and the right youth-centered adults. or as we like to call them, co-conspirators, who are invested in the youth you support. An adult coordinator or co-conspirator must be someone that not only knows and supports youth, but one who fundamentally, without a doubt, believes that young people are able and vital to making great positive change. One of the most important questions a co-conspirator should ask youth is, what do you want to do and how can I help? Co-conspirators are adults who intentionally work to build youth's resources. Co-conspirators want youth to know they matter. They see youth as colleagues and work collaboratively with them. They help youth think about goals and how to reach them while celebrating progress.
Now we'll move on to engagement. We'll cover logistics and how to take immediate action and strategies to empower youth. First of all, you must be accessible to young people. Meet them where they are, physically, emotionally, academically. We started our discussion of investors with co-conspirators for a reason. It is vital to have one or two caring adults as points of contact for your youth members. They need to know who to go to with questions or concerns. Having these adults in place will make a huge difference in the comfort and safety youth members feel when they are just getting started. Don't hold meetings during school hours or in places where youth aren't welcome. It's also very important to find out how much you want to receive information and how much information is too much. Finally, everyone learns a little differently. Be flexible and accommodating in your approach. Take action, and offering youth members meaningful work right away tells you three things. 1, they are valued. 2, they are respected and trusted. And 3, they are appreciated and are safe to be themselves. When beginning work with young people, you must be sincere. Teens know when you don't mean what you say. When you're sincere and let go of any assumptions you may have, then you can address concerns and agree on a process for moving forward. Be sure to ask open-ended questions. Once you've established what your youth want, you can identify the core values of your organization. These values will allow you to take action in your community with intention and a clear sense of what you hope to accomplish. Values are a combination of what you do and how others see you. So ask the youth you work with, what is our purpose? How should we function internally? What impacts do we want to have on the community? Here are some pictures of Youth Vote learning through action, working with the press, recording at Alaska Teen Media Institute. This kind of engagement is meaningful because it's empowering. Empowering youth is key to meaningful youth engagement and the co-conspirators' role. Adults can take a backseat, ask youth to advise, lead meetings, and own the expertise they have in their own lived experience. Providing opportunities to learn new skills is empowerment. Find out what youth want to learn and bring in the experts to teach them. Helping the young people you work with gain skills builds resilience and protects them from your risky behaviors.
Given an authentic opportunity to participate in decision-making, young people can see their goals accomplished, create significant change, and make a lasting impact. It's important to acknowledge the work that goes into meeting goals. Here are some ways you can show young people that they matter. Share accomplishments and what was learned along the way. Report out to your community and celebrate the process as well as the achievement, and offer incentives for time and talent shared. The most rewarding outcomes are those that create positive change, like these school climate projects where over 90% of participants felt their work made a difference, or making a lasting impact tangible through data collection over time. Youth Vote participates in the Youth Matter grant program. After project completion, there was a 35% increase in youth participants feeling like they matter in their community. And that brings us to revision, which allows us to step back, reflect, and adjust the way we do things by gathering input from youth. Adjusting scope can mean shifting our focus. We can fine-tune details or expanding our work. Every project we take on is part of a process and a cycle. We don't try something once and move on without evaluation. We also don't wait until a project is complete to discuss it and make changes for next time. You have to check in and make adjustments during a project, or you can miss important opportunities. Gathering input and evaluating projects can be a lot of fun. We hold debriefs and create a casual, festive environment where youth members are free to share their thoughts about a project, what worked, what didn't. But it can also be important to provide opportunities for more formal and even anonymous feedback, so you are certain all youth members know they can share their evaluation of a project or insight into the way a group operates. This respect for youth feedback shows young people they are valued and increases protective factors. Gathering input from youth remaining flexible, and focusing on core values strengthens programs and builds resiliency in young people. And then the process starts over again. Now we'd love to show you some of the ways Youth Vote provides meaningful youth engagement. We primarily focus on 3 key areas: civic engagement, creating connection, and sharing our expertise. Youth Vote produces a candidates forum before the general election every 2 years. We also work with the Anchorage School District to launch a mock election, and we produce new PSAs every year aimed at educating our peers and the rest of the community about everything from vote by mail and how to vote in person to voting rights and equality. All of these activities are aimed at increasing youth voice in decision-making, which helps youth feel like they matter in their community. Here is the PSA about the Equal Rights Amendment and John Lewis Voting Rights Advancements Act with our friends at the Alaska Teen Media Institute and our graphic designer, who's become one of our best co-conspirators.
Currently, there are 2 human rights bills being held in the U.S. Congress:
the Equal Rights Amendment and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
The ERA, a bill introduced in 1923, states,
Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
This will give all women equal rights to go beyond voting,
Equal pay for equal work,
increased job opportunities,
Healthcare fairness,
and protection against domestic violence and workplace harassment.
John Lewis risked his life to ensure the passage of the 1965 VRA, which protected against racial discrimination in voting.
In 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court removed certain protections, weakening the act.
Multiple states have attempted to suppress voting for underrepresented citizens, such as people of color,
those living with disabilities,
women,
the elderly,
and youth.
The newly amended VRAA restores these protections.
For more information, go to votingrightsalaska.org.
Paid for by the League of Women Voters of Alaska, created by Anchorage Youth Vote.
Next, we're going to take a look at one of the ways that we help create connection in our communities. One of our latest social media projects is YouthLink, and the link stands for Learning Information You Need to Know. The goal of this project is to connect young people with information and resources on topics that Anchorage youth want to know more about. So the way Youth Vote came about was in 2019, Youth Vote was invited to present on meaningful youth engagement at the International Bullying Prevention Association Conference in Chicago, where we participated in a training called Inspire Ed Youth Leadership Training. We were asked to plan a project to address youth needs in our community, and since all of Youth Vote is from different schools and different communities, we decided that for our Anchorage community, we felt that there was a disconnect between the resources that were available and the information that was actually out about them. So after a lot of planning, we created YouthLink to help bridge that divide. We ended up surveying about 100 Anchorage youth about what concerned them the most, and these were their responses. Most of them were interested in information about college preparation, mental health, and stress. There's also considerable concern about job and career readiness, financial literacy, and other general adulting skills.
Now we'll talk about how YouthLink works. Every month, we select a topic from a list we developed from the youth surveys, and each week we explore specific resources that support that topic. We try to provide information from a variety of sources, using local resources as often as we can. We also try to vary the type of resources that we share. Videos, apps, websites are the most common, but we've also shared PDF templates for things like setting goals or keeping to a schedule. We keep our topics relevant and gather input from Anchorage youth each year. Once we know what people in our community want to know more about, we can look for local in-person resources and helpful online tools to increase access and understanding of a topic. We also add youth voice in the content of the posts. Here's an example from January, when it seemed timely to focus on goal setting in response to our peers' desire for more content about life skills. We even shared some of our goals for the new year. Here we have Naomi and Ava sharing what they are working on to feel more resilient every day.
Hey, it's Naomi. One goal that I have for this year is to limit the amount of time I spend on my electronics before going to bed each night. Especially during the break, I have been not maintaining the healthiest sleep schedule, so I plan on limiting the amount of time I spend on my computer and my phone every single night before I go to bed.
Hi, I'm Ava, and one goal that I have for this year is to drink more water because I'm an athlete, and I basically never drink water. So I'm trying to drink 32 ounces a day, which I know is not very much, but I'm starting with some small goals, and hopefully I'll grow from there. So yeah.
Another important way we create connection is our bullying prevention grants. We work in a partnership to serve as the peer review team to award grants for youth-led projects covering different topics that address things like bullying, resilience, improving school climate, and much more. We've already awarded 30 grants over the last 5 years, and as part of that grant program, YouthVote provides trainings to grantees about safe messaging when talking about bullying prevention. And in our training, we make sure that grantees are able to define bullying behavior, that they can understand non-stigmatizing language around bullying, that grantees can identify bullying behavior versus normal conflict, and that they have the strategies and tools to address bullying when they see it.
This year, we partnered with the International Bullying Prevention Association and Facebook on 2 projects. The first was a set of tip sheets to help people learn ways to prevent bullying. We used best practices from IBPA and our own ideas to create this list. A few examples are highlighted. No labels, which explains why it's important to use non-stigmatizing language around bullying, and recognizing bias and the correlation between bias and bullying. One tip that was totally youth-created was taking time to self-reflect and focus on our positive strengths. The next sheet focused on the preventative actions that you can take against bullying. We focused on building skills and learning effective intervention strategies, empowering bystanders to act and use those intervention skills, and to communicate, speak up, and get to know people. Conversation and connection with peers builds resiliency. We also partnered on a self-care and bullying prevention webinar. YouthVote started the webinar with a discussion about our experiences with self-care and the pandemic. One of the most popular ways to share our expertise is by doing just what we're doing now, presenting mostly to adults about how to engage youth. Presentations, whether local or on the national or international stage, have really shown us the tremendous value in sharing what we know. We are often one of the only youth presenters, and we talk about everything from bullying prevention and self-care to civic education and meaningful youth engagement. Young people are a wealth of lived experience, and letting youth share that experience builds resilience to all kinds of risky behavior. Thanks for letting us show you how we build resilience in young people through action.
As we wrap up our time with you, we'd like to ask you to take a moment for reflection on your community and how the ideas we've discussed today might work for the youth you serve.
We asked this earlier, but let's revisit. How does your community or your organization empower youth? How do you empower youth?
What are some of the obstacles to meaningful youth engagement for young people in your community? What are barriers that you or your organization face when attempting to involve youth in a truly meaningful way?
And finally, what might help address those barriers to meaningful youth engagement? What do youth need to feel included, heard, and empowered?
Remember, always remember, be sure to ask youth what they need.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
Here's our contact information. We hope to hear from you soon.